Good evening, everyone. This is the Community Preservation Committee, our meeting on June 18th, 2025. We have a quorum. We'll open our meeting now. I have some agendas up here if anybody would like.
Printed mine up and then left it on
Yeah.
the printer.
There's
There's more here if anyone wants to.
Have them make phone set.
So we'll start off with some administrative meetings minutes. I just want to welcome everyone back. I said to Linda, I feel like it's been forever since we've been together. We only missed 1 month, but it does seem like a long time ago. I want to welcome Kate Jacobson, who will be the Park and Rec representative for us this year. We want to thank Saul Marini, if he's out there watching, for was a great addition to the group, but we welcome Kate. Let's see. I did send out some minutes. I'd like to get those done, so we make sure that we get them done. If anyone had any, and this was for the April meeting. That was our short meeting. We have a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 16th, 2025.
Second.
Motion by Linda, second by Sam. We'll do roll call since we have 2 remote attendees. Kate.
I'll abstain since I.
Linda.
Yes.
Carolyn's a yes. Sam.
Yes.
Andrew.
Yes.
And Bartlett.
Yes.
601, great, thank you. One other thing that we need to do is, actually, I'm gonna wait on the signatories until we see who's gonna be in what positions. Anyone else have anything that we've? Oh, town meeting, I took that off. Town meeting was easy. Thanks for everyone for sitting through it all and then not to have any questions, which is good, I guess. Hopefully that means that everybody read them ahead of time and was pleased, but we had 12 projects this year and they all passed. So thank you, Littleton. Is there any public input that doesn't pertain to any one of our items before we get started? Why don't we do Affordable Housing Trust afterwards, because Anna couldn't make it tonight, so we'll work with our audience. We have the Clean Lakes here, I think, for 2 different projects. So John, I think you're up first about one of the Long Lake projects.
Yeah, thank you. First off, I'd like to thank you for the for funding our projects, past projects. We've been doing this for 2 years now, and some good results. The question I have tonight pertains to $50,000 that was allocated to the Clean Lakes Committee for the removal of some floating debris islands that were on Long Lake. And the work was done last, I believe it was first week in September. And it was very successful. They took out about 100 cubic yards of debris. Turns out it was predominantly deteriorating plant matter from I guess, mostly lily pads. We've never seen that sort of thing happen before, where all that just sort of came to the surface. But after talking to some of the state authorities, we find that that does happen from time to time. The work was done. The $50,000 was not used in full. We only needed $33,000 of it. And so the $17,000, we were wondering if we could apply that to our current projects. We're looking at Long Lake this year, not so much for eco harvesting. Backtrack just a little bit. Our permits expired last year, and we found that, the state is having us apply for actually a small dredging permit to continue on with the eco-harvesting, the removal of, mechanical removal of herbicide or of invasive plants and so on. So this year we find ourselves looking at herbicide treatments for the lake if needed, but also plant surveys to find out if we do have an infestation. It doesn't seem as though we have as bad an infestation as we had anticipated. And we're trying to reserve the funds that we had allocated for eco harvesting. And we're thinking if we could in fact apply the remaining $17,000 towards activities we have this year, that would be developed to our liking, of course, and kind of in tune with the lakes. Well, they have sort of a whim. We don't always anticipate exactly what's needed. But I was wondering if those funds that are remaining could be applied to current projects.
So I tried to do a little bit of research. And I didn't have a lot of luck finding that exact question. I have the application up here in front of us all, and this really states, pretty clearly, if I can highlight it, for the permitting and removal of the floating islands. So, unlike, a job description where you have in all other projects as required. So I'm not sure. I mean, we voted for the islands themselves.
Sure.
If it were more islands, certainly.
As I alluded to in a letter that I wrote to you last month, just after you postponed your meeting.
I know what timing that was.
I nailed it. But, I was thinking, most everything we do, again, it kind of comes back to the whole notion of lakes not really being covered as a specific item with the Community Preservation Act. It talks about conservation land, it talks about restoration, it talks about projects that would enhance the ecology and what have you, but it never mentions lakes. And lakes, well, we're starting to look at it as the applications we've made in the past are far too specific. And it's kind of hard to unwind that right now, but I think the lake is the project. The lake, maintaining the lake, and it's not maintenance, it's just dealing with the things that come up. We don't know from year to year exactly how things are going to be. Forge Pond is having a terrible time with invasive species. Long Lake is not this year. To the extent that it's hard to explain. I think it's really good that we had, what we call a normal winter. We had good ice coverage. We had 2 feet of ice at one point in time. We had snow coverage on top of the ice. So it was dark, and that suppresses the amount of sunlight, of course, that can get to spur invasive growth even early on in the spring. So, a real plus. We find ourselves with a surplus of funds right now that you granted us for eco harvesting, but we can't touch those because of the fact that we don't have the proper permit in place. And we had thought we were going to take care of that from last fall through this winter, be ready this spring. But as it turns out, we can't even start the process until, say, like next month. When there's fresh growth, we take that growth and we do lab tests on that. A brave new world for all of us. But,
What do the lab tests show?
the lab tests are actually to examine the invasive plants that we plan to remove, and one of the things they measure is the VOCs, the volatile organic compounds that they emit. They're also looking at outfalls that come into each lake. Whether or not there's any kind of pollution that's coming into the lake, any kind of seepage, anything that would disrupt the ecology. And as a public, we do a pretty good job of disrupting lake ecology. So again, these things we feel responsible for, but these things we feel like we can address. But I was wondering if there was any kind of leverage for the remaining funds here that we could use this year, towards, hopefully the prevention of more floating islands, through the actions of a plant survey, which is about $5,000. And then perhaps any remedial work that needs to be done this year before we put that to bed. Again, just an appeal. If there's no wiggle room at all, we'll be far more generic in our applications in the future.
So I think I agree with Carolyn. It's hard to make this application more general at this point in time. However, and I think we should deal with the more generality of it going forward, maybe next meeting or something, we could talk about that. I'm wondering if this is a compromise, if you could, if we vote no, we can't generalize beyond what this application says. If you could submit a new application like soon, and we could vote on it maybe at the next meeting.
It's gotta go through town meeting.
Oh, it has to go through town meeting. I forgot.
That's the catch.
That's the problem.
Right, that is.
And again, when we started this was one of the first applications we made as a committee to your group, and we found, well, of course, it made a big impression on us that you want to do capital improvement projects. And again, I think a lake is an awkward fit for that, because, well, it's not like restoring a steeple or cleaning up a cemetery or something, or what you know, numerous projects that you take on. Acquiring conservation land. We have the lake, but it needs attention. You know, it needs, we're doing an awful lot in terms of storm drainage and so on to make sure we're filling it in as rapidly as possible. We're trying to counteract that, and we're trying to address these things that will prevent further problems. Will it prevent floating islands? Perhaps. Our activities this year would address that, but it's not the symptom that we have more floating islands and we need to remove them. So quite literally, I'm not trying to get away with something here, but I'm just wondering if we're leaving money on the table and something we could take advantage of.
It's a bit tough since it's pretty specific floating islands were the initial object of this grant.
In other cases, it seems to me we've allocated, I could be wrong, we've allocated money that was left over to new projects or new, we never did that.
I don't think we've ever done that. Usually what we'll do is like if this project were finished and you say, okay, no more floating islands, we would just turn that money back into the bucket that it came from. And then that money would be there for future projects.
Yes.
Andrew?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
So
go
I'm just
ahead,
gonna-
Andrew. I'm interested.
Can you guys hear me? So yeah, John, what I would suggest, because it does sound like we might be handcuffed with this project, just because it's a little more specific, but perhaps maybe in the fall, you know, the October town meeting, we could get another application in and make it a little more general towards, you know, either invasive plant control or, you know, some of the other factors, you know, leading up to the islands. And I mean, you guys would have funding available that spring and be able to do a little more work to that end. But yeah, unfortunately, I think we might be handcuffed this time around.
You need to keep it away from maintenance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of thing, I mean, you alluded to it, John, CPA is kind of project-based. I mean, that's, you know, and I think the spirit of CPA is project-based above what the town would normally, you know, fund. And of course, Clean Lakes is kind of in a strange position because you haven't been funded. I know you have a little bit of funding now, so, but certainly not enough to do everything you want.
Yeah, I find myself a little bit stuck. I think because I was looking to be project-based, I made it as specific as possible.
Yeah. No,
I talked with Jim Duggan and he said, by all means, make it as generic as possible.
No.
And I said, well, it's not gonna sell.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I mean,
well,
essentially, I had to convince you that this was worth the monies that you have available. And, so my fault, perhaps, in just starting out, but, is there any way that we could take some of those monies for a plant survey so that we can find out what we've got going on under the surface?
I don't know what people think. I mean, I guess I would not be in favor of it. Andrew Bartlett, Bartlett, you're a lake person.
Yeah, I'm in favor of sort of being liberal in our interpretation of invasive control, and I'd like to allow us to expand that definition a little bit. So I'd be in favor of transferring, using the remaining, what is it, $17,000?
Yeah.
So could you verbalize what your rationale would be? The project title is Eco Harvesting of In-Water Invasive Plants in Long Lake. How would you justify?
No, that's.
This is I think I may have sent out the wrong one.
Oh, that's not the right one?
Oh, yeah, I meant to say that at the beginning. Sorry.
We've done a plant survey on that, but we haven't done that project yet.
Yeah, this is the floating islands.
Oh, you said
Up on the screen.
Yeah, this one. So that one is specifically for, yeah, my I know there were so many of them. So this one is specifically for floating islands. Charlie Bartlett, does that change your?
Well, I mean, that's a little bit stricter. I would like to find a way to use the money, but the floating islands are a byproduct of invasive plants. I mean, that would be one direction to go in. It's kind of a stretch.
Now, if the committee was just hypothetically say yes to that thought, would that have to go back through a town meeting to move to, or is it just because the money's already in the bucket?
I guess if we could stretch the definition and say, yes, that would be acceptable under this project, then we wouldn't have to go back to town meeting.
Okay.
But someone could say, well, that's not what the project is for, and that's kind of what the sticking point is.
Right.
So like the Historical Society, with the windows, if we then said, well, can we use the rest of it for the doors? Well, we asked for windows. We shouldn't be able to use it on the doors too. So I mean, this is kind of different but similar. I mean, I feel your pain, I do, but
Yeah, John, we would love to, support the islands project and the byproducts, but I think we might be kind of painted into a corner here.
now you could keep this money on the books for a couple more years in case your floating islands come back.
I would say, I think we have, this year coming up and then the following year, to monitor things. So I won't.
Yeah, don't rescind, you won't rescind it yet.
But thank you. And again, I asked this because I don't want to run afoul of, rules and regulations and,
Understood.
so I thank you for hearing me out and the feedback.
Okay, so I guess, oh, yes, Mr. Barr.
So, Dave Barr, Madawaska Trail. Just generally speaking, not, but, does the CPA also include a directive to preserve, open space?
That is one of the categories of preserving open space, yes.
The ongoing eutrophication of lakes degrades them to the point where, you know, a lake becomes
A swamp.
lake becomes a marsh, becomes a wet meadow, becomes, so this has happened in Mill Pond, where a 12-foot lake over the course of just a couple decades is now a 3-foot sort of eyesore. I mean, it's still a lake, but it's not the vibrancy that it was, and these processes that normally take thousands of years, the lakes are surrounded by development, regions with development, it can happen in 100 years, in decades,
Right.
which Mill Pond was decades. So, I just,
Yeah,
I understand that doesn't really apply to this specific request. But, you know, it was mentioned that we need to stay away from maintenance. And, I would advocate that, keeping the lakes from eutrophying and becoming no longer a resource that they are now is preservation. And that has to be done actively in the current environment,
Mm.
just in general, just a comment.
I'm trying to find like a definition here. Open space. Limited to but not falling, yep, ocean, river, stream, lake, and pond frontage, fresh and saltwater marshes and other wetlands. Acquisition, creation, and preservation of open space, rehabilitation or restoration of any open space that has been acquired using CPA funds, which wouldn't hold for any of the lakes. That's all it says.
We don't need to answer right now, but just
Yeah. I'll have to-
something to
Yeah.
think about.
So it says frontage, but not the actual water.
Well, it does
itself.
say fresh and saltwater marshes and other wetlands. It doesn't, beaches, coastal lands. Land for recreate, yeah, that'll be interesting. We should get a definition of,
There's the oversight.
We
Yes.
like to think of ponds as some of the best open space.
right, right. It can't be built on.
Not until it's
They, I
built
was
in.
gonna say they haven't figured out how,
Few
yeah.
centuries, hopefully.
All right, yeah, we'll, see if we can get some answers. Maybe the coalition can help us with that.
That'd be great.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, sorry, John.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's a clarification.
Yeah. So then we have a similar, another party heard, another lake heard from, this is Forge Pond. Mr. Barr, you have a similar request for you?
Mhm.
And this was the eco harvesting one, correct?
Right.
Yeah. And this was a project for $80,000.
Mhm.
And what would you like to? Yeah, yeah, I don't know if there's a,
I need a microphone, but they're more comfortable.
okay.
Yeah, so, thank you at town meeting,
The owl's making noise.
oh, I see. The town approved your, request for $80,000 for eco harvesting on Lake Minnewanki / Forge Pond. We, have been fighting eutrophication on the lake for the last decade using drawdowns. And, we find that with the warmer winters, they're not as effective as they were. And so we're looking at, other ways to mitigate eutrophication, and we've been trying to explore eco harvesting for the previous 2 summers, and we were hindered in doing that by various issues that limited the size of the treatments and delayed them until late August. He's talking.
I know, it's, that's, I wonder if it's too loud. I'm afraid, I don't know if like one of your meetings you just had, it was like, it sounded awful when you listened to it.
Oh.
I don't know if he has volume.
Am I hear okay online?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. What, did it sound funny before, or was it okay?
It was a little echoey before. It actually sounds better now.
Okay, all right, so it must have been up too loud, okay. Sorry.
So at the time that we came and requested the funding, we knew that, we had, that DEP was classifying, eco harvesting as dredging, so we needed to have a dredging permit in order to do it. And, the plan was to, Clean Lakes Committee was, moving ahead with getting a dredging request. And the expectation was that we would have one by now, and that we could do the eco harvesting this summer. And we requested funding for a large treatment so that we could actually, and we could have it early enough and large enough that we could really assess whether this is an effective way to mitigate, to eliminate the invasive plants. It turned out that DEP told us we couldn't really start the process for applying for the dredging permit until like now. We wanted to, one of the first steps is collecting plants and sediments for analysis, as Don referred to earlier. And the plants and the sediment was there last fall, and we said, let's collect it now. And they said, no, you have to wait until early summer to do it. And so it takes months and months to do the whole process. So we are holding the funding and we're going to use it next year. But since we weren't able to do anything this year, we had $18,000 that was allocated by the water department for eco harvesting last year, which wasn't spent because we were constrained to only remove 100 cubic yards. We had $18,500 left over. We requested from the water department whether we could apply that to doing herbicide treatments this year, and they said that was okay. The plan is to use the herbicides this year to reduce invasive plants this summer, and expect some carryover next year, which we're hoping will improve the effectiveness of the eco harvesting next year, because there'll be fewer plants to deal with, and maybe this on-off alternating cycle is more effective than just doing the eco harvesting. So we thought this was a silver lining in the fact that we couldn't do the eco harvesting this year, and we'd see, you know, the plan was to apply systemic herbicides to some of the areas where we have invasive plants, and that is a herbicide that has a longer lasting effect. It takes longer for it to take effect, might not actually show up affecting the plants until later in the summer, but it has a longer effect because it gets down into the roots and it kills the roots as well as the rest of the plant. And so it can have an effect for a couple of years before, you know, more plants come in and come back. So we plan to use systemic herbicides on some of the areas, what they call contact herbicides on other areas, which, as the name implies, whatever part of the plant is contacted dies. And that happens pretty quickly within a week or two. But it's only the part that's contacted, and since the roots aren't contacted, the roots remain, and so the plant is gone for for all practical purposes now, but it can come back from the roots, depending on what kind of plant and that kind of thing. So the plan is to use systemic herbicides in some of the plant acreage, contact herbicides on other parts of plant acreage, and no herbicide treatments on other parts. And a big part that will get no herbicides is the western side of the lake, because the Westford this year is not providing funding for anything other. They are funding our plant surveys for Lake Manawanaki for the whole lake for this year. We're alternating back and forth. This year they're doing the plant surveys. Interestingly enough, when I was talking to the Conservation Commission to get approval for the herbicides, we were encouraged to go back to Westford CPC and request funding for eco-harvesting for next year. And I was there 3 times to get the approval for the herbicides, and every time I was, it was suggested I do that, so we will. And so it's possible that we would be able to do, they would fund their side and we use your funding for the Littleton side. We'd be able to do the whole lake, which would be great. But so like I said, for sure that half of the lake won't have any herbicide treatments. And depending on how far our funding goes and what tomorrow we're doing a plant survey, and we'll see, based on that, what the recommendations are in terms of what areas need to be done, and we would allocate our any funding we have to systemic and contact. And there may be parts on the Littleton side of the lake that we can't do either because we don't have enough money. But that's the plan, and we can see, to what extent do these 3 different kinds of situations affect the eco-harvesting effectiveness next year. Like I said, we applied for and got the permits for the herbicides for both Littleton Conservation Commission, Westford Conservation Commission, because we haven't done herbicides on the lake for decades. So there were a couple of things happened in the process of getting the permits and getting the contracts for the herbicide treatments, which have resulted in our understanding from guidance we received was that we wouldn't need to be bidding it, just need to get quotes. As it turned out, because of the number of things, bids were required, and there were some delays in the pipeline upstream in terms of the permitting process. And so those 2 combined together mean that there's a possibility, rather strong possibility, that we won't be able to use the water department funding for the herbicides because the bids won't be opened until the 30th. We're working with the expected vendor to get things lined up ahead of time. Like I said, we're doing the plant survey tomorrow, and then based on that, we'd come up with a plan. And if they're willing to have the treatment staged and ready to go on the 30th, assuming that the contract can be signed that day, which the water department says it's possible as long as there aren't any problems, then we could do the project and have it funded with water department funding by the end of June. But there's also a lot of things that could happen that would prevent that from happening. So it was suggested that we come and request from you that possibly some of the money that's allocated to the eco harvesting, could that be
You won't have access to the 18,000 after, is that what the?
So
fiscal year?
that's correct. The local water department funding for that is part of FY 2025. And the work has to be done by the end of June in order for them to use it for that. And if it's not done by then the funding would go back and we wouldn't have access to it. You know. Our intent in doing the herbicides was to see, well, here's the silver lining, like I said, can we see how this, these different approaches affect the effectiveness of the eco harvesting next year? And so I don't know whether you see that to be a appropriate link for the money was allocated by town meeting for eco harvesting. So I don't know if you see that as still being in the same purpose or not.
So I just want to read something from your application that I just saw while you were talking on page 6 under potential delays. The last two sentences say, and talks about the permit delays that we talked about, and other delays in eco harvesting. It says, in the case of these delays, we will consider more traditional alternatives for the 2025 season. This could potentially include a single-time use of herbicides, blah, blah, blah. If the 2025 invasive plant growth continues to increase, it may be wise to dampen that increase with the herbicide treatment. So there is some reference to that in this application, so it's not totally out of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Where was the use of those?
Page 6, the
on the
first
top.
paragraph.
Oh, it was too far down.
It's the end of that potential delays paragraph.
One of the steps is no. Delaying receiving permit. Said we will preserve the funds to perform the work in the subsequent season. If that occurs at this time, we will not proceed with eco harvesting late in the season as we have been forced to do before, as we recognize early treatments are more effective. Instead, we will preserve the funds to perform the work and evaluation in the subsequent season. In this case, we will consider more traditional alternatives. Almost like we hadn't put that sentence in before. Andrew Bartlett.
I think what we might be running into is, a similar situation as the Long Lake application. Fortunately, I'm looking for any little wiggle room I can, kind of get this for you, Dave. And in looking at it, yeah, it's a shame, like Carolyn said, that first sentence wasn't included, because then we could wrap around and say, well, okay, A failed, so we have to jump into B, and it's included within your scope. But in this case, it looks like it was, this specifically or nothing. But yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how we could.
Sorry, could you say that again? I'm not following you.
Oh, can you guys hear me? My phone might be a little garbled.
No, we can hear
No,
you.
I'm just not following your train of thought.
So the sentence that Linda had read out loud previously, basically stating, if we're unable to perform the eco harvesting within the scope of this application, we'll return to more traditional methods, herbicides, etc. But then with that sentence that Carolyn read, essentially going before that, saying, if we're unable to perform eco harvesting due to permitting issues or other issues that may come up, we will reserve the funds, given by CPC, and then proceed with traditional methods. So it's kind of, it makes it sound like it's outside of the scope of the application.
Can I clarify what we meant there?
Sure.
So, the intent of that sentence is, that we would not go ahead with, a treatment, late in the season like we have in the past. That if permits were, delayed and we were, not able to get a permit until later, we wouldn't do the eco harvesting late in the season. We would want to do it the next year, in 2026. So we're still doing that. We're preserving the funds to do the treatment in 2026. And, you know, we specifically say that we would consider doing herbicides for to dampen the increase until we using herbicides together with the eco harvesting.
I think where it says preserve the funds, I think that's where we're tripping up.
That's what's kind of getting me, because I could see it just.
And then here's the project here, and it just talks about a survey, and then, I mean, you're talking about machine days of eco harvesting.
You know, I don't have the documents in front of me, but from what Linda read, it sounded like eco harvesting is a way of getting rid of the invasives, and that I would interpret that in this situation, a herbicide would be an alternate way of getting rid of invasives. And I don't have the documents, so I'm not quite sure what I would be looking at if I had them.
Are you watching us or are you just listening to us?
Well, I'm watching, but
Oh, can
I
you
seem,
see? So this is what she's talking about here, and then if you read the sentence before, it says instead, I'm pointing like you'll see me. Instead, we will preserve the funds to perform the work and evaluation. Talking about the eco harvesting.
Which we still plan to do. We would
Right,
be
yeah.
preserving a lot of funding for eco harvesting
Right.
next season.
But not the entire 80,000.
I definitely see both sides. However, I mean, if this paragraph of potential delays wasn't in here, I would say no. But because this paragraph is in here, it's a contingency plan almost.
Mhm.
I might vote to allow it. If it wasn't here, I wouldn't.
And I think the key sentence or phrase in this is, in this case, we will consider more traditional alternatives. So they're saying, if I'm reading this, I would read it as you'll preserve basically the majority of the funds, although it doesn't say that because you weren't sure. Save money to be able to do this in the next season, but spend some money for that single time use of herbicides. If consultation with lake management professionals says this is a good approach. It's just like maybe one word missing and it would be a no-brainer. I could see how it could be read as, yeah, you know, we're gonna, you know, we can't do that. So in this case, we're gonna move forward with alternative methods, but I'm not a legalese stickler, so.
well, that's certainly the way I would like to interpret it. I think that, you know, invasives are a serious enough problem that, you know, any steps that are possible should be taken to treat them.
And I would completely agree. I just want to make sure that we're within the scope that the townspeople approved at town meeting.
So how much money are we talking about for the herbicide treatment?
So, suggestion is 20,000.
Mhm.
So we still have 60,000 left, which would give us 10 days, 10 machine days of eco harvesting which compares to in 2023, we had 2 days on Littleton. In 2024, we had 3 days on Littleton. So with 60, we'd have 10 days, which is over 3 times as much as we had last year, 5 times as much as we had the year before.
So the 18.5 that you'll lose on June 30th, does that go back into just a general fund? Do you have to request that again, or is it lost to you after?
It's lost to us.
Yeah. I would think that the town meeting would say we voted to get rid of the invasive plants, and one way is the same as another way. I mean, I think some lawyers would argue with that, but I think the town meeting sense is the invasives are a problem, and anything we can do to get rid of them is a good idea.
The project title, Bartlett, is Eco Harvesting of Invasive Aquatic Plants in Lake
Right,
California.
but because of the idiotic people in the state, we can't do that. So we're proposing an alternate means, and I think I don't think we should be bound by the morons in Boston.
We're going to quote you on that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rounce, you had a.
I just wanted to attempt to clarify. My understanding is the 18.5, that's the water department's funds, right? Yeah. So that's where I as a resident, I'm not a member of Clean Lakes. So I attend their meetings as I attend your meetings pretty frequently. So I follow this and try to speak up and advocate for it. In this instance, I'm aware that the water department has effectively said, we're going to lose it. You use it or lose it. There is no, and they don't like to have like, hump years, that sort of thing. That's one point. The other part that I could just offer you up as a resident who watch this, because I meet with these folks, in meetings and offline to try to strategize. I can just offer you up my personal representation for what it's worth, that the language that Linda identified, in fact, was very deliberate with regard to providing an expansive, more expansive than just the eco harvesting, because at the time that it was being prepared, the application, there was an awareness of, with regard to the state's determination of dredging permits. But that's all that I can offer you up. And I think you're saying it correctly. You can, at least there's a hope there, but whether it's adequate, I leave that to you. Thank you.
Vote? Yes, no?
I think on this, yeah, I mean, we didn't really vote on the last one, but I think we were pretty much in consensus.
Okay, vote.
But we didn't really technically vote on not, on.
Oh, that we didn't vote on.
Yeah, but this one, I don't know, I'm not comfortable with it. I guess I'd rather vote so that I could. And I appreciate what you guys are trying to do, I do, and I feel very strongly about the lakes and the water too. It's just seeing what we have, with my CPC hat on. I feel like this is the same as the last one.
I feel it's different because they have that paragraph of potential delays,
I don't
and
read
they
it that
talk
way.
about the alternative. Anyway,
Yeah, the title of the application is, and then it gets broken down. I mean, rightfully so, are expecting at least aware of possible delays and try to cover it.
I would suggest that 99% of the people that voted for it have no idea what eco harvesting is. And they know that we're removing plants on the lake. And there's a lot that goes into the applications that our meeting is not fully aware of.
But you could say that for every article that goes.
I'm just saying that the details in the application may matter.
So
Bartlett, is that you?
Yeah, I just have a question. We are talking about $20,000 of CPC money in this case
Yes, 20 of the
And-
80,000.
of the 80,000, and that 20 is intended to add on to the 18,000 from the water department?
No,
They don't think so.
if we're able to get everything lined up and the stars all align, and are able to do the treatment on June 30th, we wouldn't need to do this. We would just use the water department's funds. Our expectation is that that's it's quite possible that something will come up the gears in that, and we aren't able to do it on the 30th. In which case, we were looking to do this as another way to do it. So if we use the water department's funding, we wouldn't use the CPC funding for the herbicides.
Well, I guess if we want to vote on it, if it goes favorable, I'd like to ask some questions. Just be on the safe side. Do we want to vote on it?
Do you want to maybe go around the room and just kind of give some final thoughts? And I feel like we'd get more out of that than just kind of going yay or nay on it.
No. So Andrew, do you have some final thoughts?
I mean, I want to buy into this clause idea. I really do. Because, I mean, Dave, I want to get this moving. I'm just not 100% certain that we can hang our hat on it as being part of the scope of the project that was approved. Because essentially it is saying we're going to do eco-harvesting up until the very end. And then if not, we'll reserve that money and then, do herbicides. So, I mean, I want to hang my hat on it, but I'm just not sure if it's under the same scope.
Bartlett, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, yeah, for me, it's close enough. I mean, there is that. I mean, yes, it does say eco harvesting, but there is, a mention of using herbicides if for some reason they can't do the eco harvesting. So for me, it's I'm in favor of making that decision that it's okay to allocate the 20,000.
Right in between, because I'd like to continue the project or get the project up and get it going in regardless of taking into account that the permitting process is slow. And this would produce hopefully some positive results before the eco harvest.
Would you feel comfortable if we said, yes, go ahead and use 20,000 for herbicide?
I think so.
I'm with Andrew. I guess I would not be. Linda, you seem to be.
Yeah, I would vote to allow the 20,000 to be used for the herbicide treatment.
Kate, you have you kind of come in the middle of all this, but an outside opinion might be a good one.
So it's interesting coming into the middle of all this. From a citizen point of view, looking at it in this way, I would read this as, well, yeah, they're going to need to go with the single time use of herbicides. And so I would vote favorably because of that clause.
I think part of the problem is that people, the state has defined eco-harvesting as dredging because mud comes up with the roots. And I think that's a totally ridiculous decision on the state's part.
There's very little mud that comes up actually. Most of the plants don't come up by the roots. Most of them are broken.
Yeah.
So there's very,
So that's,
it's hard to figure.
I think it's all on Sam.
Well, I think he was comfortable if we said.
Oh, he was comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm
I
sorry.
think at the end, he,
I see.
so it sounds like it's close enough, people have it. All right, I will ask some questions, but,
Questions of me?
no, from like the, coalition that oversees the
Oh.
community preservation to see if, how much of a stickler we should be.
Mhm.
And I'll do that
It's a good
tomorrow,
idea.
I think that's fair.
just in case I don't understand.
That works. And then we can come back next month and, perhaps officially vote, allow I feel like my mic is like failing here.
No, you sound fine. I think it might be the owl or something. So, but you would need to know before the end of the month, right?
I'm sorry, Dave. I forgot about that part.
We are working with, the water department, we're working with the expected vendor. We're working with the company that's doing the plan surveys to try to facilitate, June 30th agreement. If that doesn't happen, then we are either out of luck or we might be able to use this.
Okay, so if we couldn't, that if we couldn't tell you till July 4th, you could still go ahead with whatever, you would continue with everything. Okay. I'm sure it won't take them that long. They're really good about getting back to us.
Okay.
And if that is favorable news, you would not need to put it to a vote with us, or would you have to wait till the next meeting?
I don't know, I
to
guess
put it to a
maybe,
vote?
maybe we could vote on it pending the outcome of a question. That way, if they say, no, it's fine, it will just go through. If not, then I'll have to let you know, and we'll be back to square one.
Mhm.
Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
Andrew, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I think that works because it gives this project, I guess, a shot at going forward. Pending, of course, coalition input. If they come back and say this is like, hey, you guys can't do this, then at least we'll have that kind of guardrail.
Okay. So someone want to make a motion to accept the proposal from the Clean Lakes Committee? Is it that way?
I'll make a motion to accept the proposal from the Clean Lakes Committee to, if necessary, use $20,000 of the funds approved at town meeting for the Lake Matterhorn eco harvesting project, to be used towards one-time herbicide treatment if needed.
Mhm.
I'll second that.
All right, we'll do a roll call since we have remote members. Andrew?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Bartlett?
Yes,
Sam?
Yes.
Carolyn is a no. Linda?
Yes.
And Kate?
Yes.
Okay. 6-1. Okay, I will be in touch and let you know what we hear.
Okay,
There's enough gray area in CPA that you might be okay.
okay.
If we've learned anything over the years, we've learned that.
That was 5-1.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, you're right. No, I even put 5 little sticks down and then I counted it as 1. 5, 1. Thank you for that.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Right. So, and it's based on that one phrase. That's why his application was doing differently. than
Correct.
John's.
Well, it was the whole paragraph,
That
really,
paragraph.
that potential delays paragraph.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing, is to point to page 6, potential delays. Really noting the DEP permit,
Okay.
administrative delays could throw a wrench in all of this.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Sorry, John.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
The next thing we have is the, planning board affordable housing trust. Sewer hookups. Bartlett, this was something that you had proposed. You wanna drive this one?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening with that. There is going to be a hookup of the Housing Authority Pine Tree Park to the sewer. It's going to require digging a trench, laying pipe, connecting the buildings, and decommissioning the existing septic systems, the leaching fields. So there's engineering involved and a lot of work, and I think they were talking about roughly $800,000 total. I know that the Housing Authority has applied to the state, to EOHLC and to other people for grants to cover this. I don't know the status of those grant applications. So I'm not in a position to ask for a hard sum of money at this point. I just don't know what is going to happen with the grants. And so I really can't present very much.
So what would you need from us tonight then? And okay, it sounds all right, or do you want something definitive?
No, I think something, I mean, it just, if it sounds like something that I could reasonably bring forward with, something less than $800,000.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could feel comfortable going before you guys and asking for some sum of money for that purpose, for connecting the Housing Authority to the town sewer, I might have to do that, and I just don't know yet. I know that they've applied for about, I think, close to $2 million in grants, because there's a $1 million or $1.25 million connection fee, and then there's the sort of $800,000 estimated engineering and construction money to make it happen. So there, I may come back with a request for some part of that.
So according to this email, you're looking to the CPC to consider the sewer connection to be in support of housing rather than rehabilitation. Is that
right? It's in support, because it's a new system. It's not rehabilitating anything. It's connecting to a new sewer.
And you did talk to Chase at the Community Preservation Coalition, but he just said it's up to the local board's interpretation.
And to talk to Stuart if we want more.
Yeah.
Did you say it's behind or near Fay Park? Is that what you said?
No, it's Pine Tree Park. It's the housing complex at the beginning of Shattuck Street.
Got it. Thank you.
And there's, I think, 60 some units in there.
So replacing or repairing the existing septic system is with a sewer nearby doesn't seem to make sense. If it's equivalent in price or even.
Well, the septic systems are generally in a state of failure or near failure. So the sewer is an absolute necessity for the Housing Authority to continue. But I just don't know how, I mean, this grant business is going to be playing out for the rest of the calendar year, and I don't know how it's going to end up.
When do you have, when do they have to know that? I thought that was already all set. Or have you
No,
said-
it's not all set. I can, I mean, they haven't, as far as I know, they haven't signed up anybody, engineers to even look at it, or, I mean, I mean, I don't know of any steps that have been taken, except that we know we're going to have to do it and it's going to cost a lot of money. That's really the state of my knowledge right now.
So, from what you've described, it looks like this is support for housing, which is one of the acceptable categories that can't, like you said, it can't be rehabilitation. There's nothing there in terms of the sewer.
Right.
So it seems to fit.
Well, I mean, I know that CPC contributed some towards years ago, we needed a new water meter, and I think community preservation contributed some towards that, and the water department did some free work for the housing authority. So, I mean, I think a system like that is in support of the whole complex.
Right. Very complicated. I suppose it's something that I don't know if we send to town council. I mean, he said, as long as the local board, is he saying us as the local board, or is that? Anybody else has done it? I guess, I mean, if you were creating a housing complex, which you can do with CPA money, the sewer would be part of it. I mean, that would all be.
Right, and the CPA CPC has given money for roof repairs and roof replacement, which also qualify as being, preserving the structure of the buildings.
Acton paid for sewer betterments for 3 units. Watershed improvements, evaluate and upgrade some storage, sewer lines. Here's Concord. The building's 100-year-old plumbing needs to be connected to the town sewer system. In order to accomplish this, the bathrooms will need to be relocated. That's not all the same thing. Replacement of, no, that's for pumping sewage. To replace the sewer lateral, to replace sewer, I don't know what that means, engineering studies. Keep sewer beds toward, the town committed on the sale of sewer bed. I don't know, it kind of looks like people have done other sewer improvements. These monies will specifically go toward the inputting of a sewer line and the prepared work for this project. That was Franklin Affordable Housing. So I think you're right, if we call it in support, it's supporting the existing public housing. Andrew, do you have any thoughts?
I would generally agree that it's, supporting housing. That category is very broad. So I think a lot of different things that would help, the goal of housing in town would probably qualify.
So Bartlett, would you be looking for additional funding from us, or is this going to be like the money that the affordable housing? No, it's 2 separate things, right? Right, it's not the Affordable Housing Trust, it's the.
No, this is, the housing authority. It's unrelated to the trust.
That's right, I tripped over that with Anna, Housing Authority. So you would be looking, would you think you'd be looking for 800,000, or are you gonna?
No, I don't think so. I think there's probably going to be major grants from the state or from somebody to do most of it. And I'm just thinking that there might be some small parts that aren't covered somehow.
And I guess I would say continue and we can look into it a little bit more and, but to me, it sounds like in support, sounds like it fits.
Yeah, because you can't just close Pine Tree Park down because the septic systems
Right.
are unrepairable.
Right.
It's the last
And
thing
with the
we-
sewer right out in Jack Street.
I know, it would be stupid not to.
Support seems valid.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like we're in consensus, Bartlett, that you can move
Great.
forward and
Thank you.
it'll just be, working with the Affordable Housing Trust to see how much money is left. Or we do have some funds in, on designated also.
Right. But,
That's
well,
a
thank
pretty-
you.
That's a pretty hefty hookup fee.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But it's a big project. There's, I think, 60 units in there. This has been going on for a year and a half. A year ago in April, we got a bill from the water department saying they needed $120,000, and we didn't get that from the state until May this year. So they have that, but now they're looking for another $1.25 million to, actually do the hookup. So it's insanely expensive and it takes forever to get anything done. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, all right, so you have what you need from us for now and we'll
I do. Thank you.
continue to think about that. One more little housekeeping is the grant agreement. We have to go back to this. This is, number 4 on our agenda. We skipped over. We had worked this out last year with the Affordable Housing Trust with the money that we give to them or we grant to them for the rental assistance program. It was another $106,000 at this year's town meeting.
Yep.
And so this is just, this year's grant agreement and basically we used last year's as a template and switched the amount to $106,000 to be used or held by the trust and reserve for up to 3 years for the LRAP program. And, the date of transfer, we talked to Michelle Reynolds because they don't quite have 106 in the bucket right now. But
Right.
it will be coming in, and so they, I think we talked about getting some of the money now so that they would have it in their bank account so they could do some rental assistance, and then it is about 90,000, I think there were 80,000.
Right.
So it would just be a small amount that they would pay up to like the end of December. And I'll have to check with Anna, I thought she had sent me the updated one to see exactly what she said, but we'll just change the date to be, transfer funds by the end of 2025.
Right. Yeah, we discussed that at the Housing Trust meeting last night, and the trust has no problem with, getting some of the money now or soon and the rest of it at the end of the year after the state distribution. And we talked about 90,000 and 16,000, but I don't think whatever Michelle has for numbers, I think we can live with.
Yeah. Yeah, because in November we get the state matches a portion of the revenue that we receive, so I can't remember what it's 80,000 or something like that. So we allocate that. We have an estimated allocation we do at town meeting. So they are expecting that money. So it comes in usually in November. So by the end of the year, they'll have that replenished. So they'll be able to get the rest of the money. Does anyone else have any other questions on this document? It's pretty much the same that we did last year. We have a motion to accept.
I make a motion to accept the
Grant.
grant
disbursement schedule.
Grant disbursement schedule for the Affordable Housing Trust.
I seconded.
I will do a roll call. Andrew,
Yes.
Bartlett,
Yes,
Dan,
Yes,
Carolyn is a yes, Linda?
Yes.
And Kate?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. I will
Thank
let
you.
Ann know and get that to the town clerk. The next thing on the list is reorganization of the committee. Well, currently I'm chair, obviously. Andrew is vice chair and Mitt is our clerk. I don't know if anyone wants to take a turn at being chair. Bartlett, Andrew?
Carolyn, you do an amazing job. I'm just saying.
I thought you were gonna say, yeah, I'd like to take a shot. I'm gonna say, yeah, so.
I think Carolyn's done a phenomenal job and I hope she continues.
I can
Well-
do it for another year.
okay. Do I have to nominate you or can you just
Yes.
accept by acclamation?
Yeah, no, yeah, we should do nomination. Should we nominate a whole slate and then just vote? And Andrew, are you still willing to be the VP?
I'm still willing to be the vice.
Okay, good, because I have this text, so I can do that. And Mitt's not here. Does anyone else want to be the clerk? Sorry, Mitt Wanzer. No show. I will nominate Mitt Wanzer to be the clerk.
I'll
Does
second
somebody
that.
want to make a motion for the slate of officers or the committee, whatever we call ourselves?
I'll make a motion that, to nominate, Carolyn Mueller as the chair, Andrew Smarko as the vice chair, and Mitt Wanzer as the clerk for the Community Preservation Committee for fiscal year 2026.
I second that.
All right, I'm moving second for the slate of, home officers on this, I don't know. Andrew,
Yes.
Bartlett,
Yes,
Sam,
yes.
Carolyn is a yes, Linda?
Yes.
And Kate?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So then we have to talk about signatories. We got, anyone who's on the committee has probably heard this already, the annual signature authorizations. It's time again for your respective boards to vote on your department's account payable bills signature approval process. Members must vote to designate the number of signatures and or specific members required to sign and often approve the bills. This is only required if the board or committee is seeking less than a majority to authorize payments.
Oh,
So,
I didn't know that part.
okay. But there's 9 of us and trying to get, and we have what, 1 bill a year? I mean, we basically, we don't spend, we give. So we do the collusion that we've been talking about, and I'll forward you that
Okay.
website because that's a good one. We pay dues to them. And that's about the only bill. So I don't know if we want to just have 2 signatures or one. I mean, I bring it to the board and I don't know how we do it.
So do we have now 2 signatures? Carolyn.
Andrew, is it you and me that are signatories?
I don't think we've ever actually had to sign anything.
I think it was just me because it was always just Mitt when he was chair.
Well, it might be good to have 2 in case you're gone for
Yeah.
some reason, then
No, I
you
agree.
could sign it. So I would, I'd make a motion that Carolyn and Andrew are the signatories for the CPC this year.
Meaning not both, but one or the
One or
other.
the other.
One or the other, yeah.
Right, good clarification, yes.
I will second that.
Okay, Andrew,
Yes.
Bartlett,
yes,
Sam,
Yes,
Carolyn is a yes, Linda?
Yes.
And Kate?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me send that off to Michelle. All right, so I'm on this. Upcoming year, we'll talk about later, just, thinking of things ahead of time. Future meeting schedule, so at this time, why don't we plan on a July meeting? We may need it. July 16th would be our next meeting, the third Wednesday. Our third Wednesday is good for you, Kate? Look good. Seems to work well for us. And we've been having them hybrid, which we'll continue to do since we're allowed to now. So you can always zoom in if you want. And then, any last items? Ross, nothing? Nope. All right, so that's all we have for this evening. Thanks, everyone. Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
And, Sharon, Bartlett, Andrew,
Yes.
and Bartlett,
yes.
Sam,
Yes.
Carolyn is a yes, Linda,
Yes.
and Kate.
Yes.
Great, thank you, everyone. Have a good night.